Hello and welcome to the Ty Show for April 19th, 2020. Not a big day in sports, but we did get one of our major things that we've all been waiting for, which I will review today, which was The Last Dance, the documentary on the 97 Bulls, which we saw the first two episodes tonight on ESPN, and they were incredible. It couldn't have been any better, if you ask me. It goes through what happened to the Bulls in 97 when it was going to be their final year. Basically, the whole team was fed up with GM Jerry Krause, and to the point where Phil Jackson wasn't even going to return because he wanted more money, and Jerry Krause signed him to a one-year deal and told him that if he goes 82-0, he still wouldn't re-sign him. And Michael Jordan was refusing to play at this time. Scottie Pippen was on the last year of his 7-year contract, which was way underpaid for him, where he was only making $2.8 million and was the 122nd best paid player in the league and the sixth best paid player on the Bulls, even though he was second in points, second in rebounds, first in assists, first in steals. He was doing everything for the Bulls, but he just wasn't getting paid, so he was frustrated. You had other players frustrated at the same time, too, and Phil signs the contract and names it the last dance this final year. Let's go get one more championship. So documentary sets this all up, kind of explains to you why everyone was mad at Jerry Krause and where they stood at the time. And you get MJ with not understanding why you would want to break up this team, and you have Pippen who's frustrated because they wouldn't pay him, they wouldn't talk to his deal, to the point where he waits to have surgery on his ankle till the first week of the season. So then he's out till January instead of doing it at the summer because he didn't want to rehab over the summer for somebody who didn't want it. And season two ends with Pippen requesting his trade from the Bulls. So we'll see how that progresses. But yeah, it went through. It started episode one. Started with MJ. It tells you about his career in high school, his career in college, which you learn in college that his freshman year he wasn't anything special. I mean, he was we all know the story of how he was cut in high school. Um, but in college, his freshman year, he wasn't averaging good minutes. He wasn't doing anything, and that's when Roy Williams told him, he's like, "Hey, if you want to be the best player in the world, you got to practice like it." And he's like, "I practice just as hard as everyone else." And he's like, "But they're not the best player in the world, are they?" So MJ takes this to heart, practices really hard, and leads North Carolina to the national championship game, to where he hit the game-winning shot to beat Patrick Ewing's Georgetown. So he progresses 2 more years in uh, North Carolina, Chapel Hill, to the point where his junior year comes. He wanted to stay his senior season, but his coach Dean Smith told him not to. It wouldn't have been the right choice. So in the 1984 draft, he declares Hakeem goes number one, Sam Bowie goes number two, MJ goes number three to the Bulls. And like he said, it only took a matter of 1 to 2 weeks before everyone knew that MJ was the best player on the Bulls already. But it was a not very good Bulls team, as the MJ has the story where uh, there's one night he was walking through the hotel. He knocks on a hotel room, and it's like, "Who is it?" And he's like, "It's MJ." And they're like, "Ah, it's the rookie." And he said he walked in, and there's the lines of cocaine, the little smoke, weed smokers. You had the girls, and he just said, "I'm out." And turned around and left. That summed up the Bulls when he got there, as they called it, the traveling cocaine circus. Um, but that's kind of where season one ended. Was you went through his first season when he won Rookie of the Year, and then he goes to episode two, which they're always jumping in between the 97 season and now. And the 97 season starts with, of course, the whole story on Scottie Pippen, questioning or refusing to play, having surgery on his ankle late. So the Bulls, as you can clearly tell, are mad at this. MJ's mad at this. He said Pippen made the wrong choice here. But the only person who understood was Phil Jackson, because Phil didn't want to be there either. Uh, he understood what Pippen did. He was just trying to get his worth, and I completely understand too. Pippen was completely underutilized by the Bulls, and he wanted to show that he was worth something. So of course he sits out. So then we go learn about Pippen's career and how he lived in a family with, I think they said 16 brothers and sisters. One of his brothers gets paralyzed, his dad gets paralyzed, so he lives in a house with two people in a wheelchair, and he tries to learn basketball because his grandpa had a court. That was all he could do. And goes to Central Arkansas, becomes the equipment manager. Some people get in trouble, some scholarships open up. He convinces one of the coaches to give him a scholarship, and he becomes the best player on the team. And his sophomore year grows from 6'1" to 6'5", then grows to 6'7", and becomes an absolute star at Central Arkansas, to where he gets selected with the fifth pick to the Seattle Supersonics in the draft, who the Bulls trade for, and end up with Pippen because Jerry Krause loved him. And you go through Pippen saying that he thought he was the best player of the Bulls, but pretty fast knew that it was MJ, going through that season with Charles Oakley bullying him because he was a rookie. And then you get the story that kind of convinces me why MJ was MJ. All right, you go through the 1980, what was it, 86 playoffs? Yeah. This is the year before they got Pippen. MJ breaks his ankle going down on a layup or a dunk. I can't remember what they said, but he broke his front bone on his ankle. And he's sitting out, but he wanted to play. And doctors tell him that he's 90% cleared. And he's like, oh, cool, I'm 90% cleared. Let's go play. And they said, well, if you do get hurt with that other 10%, your career's over. The owner of the Bulls at the time told him, no, we don't want you to do that. He's like, you're not looking at it. MJ said he always was a person to look at the glass half full, but everyone else looked at it as half empty. And he convinced, till Jerry Krause finally put him on a 7 minutes a half restriction. But they would not let him play a single second over 14 minutes. And he thought they were taking. He straight up told that to a couple of the reporters, was that he thought that the Bulls were just trying to take. That's why they were refusing to let him play. And it comes down to a game to get them into the playoffs against the Pacers. And he could only play 14 minutes, and he wanted to play more. Jerry Krause legit told the head coach at the time, Red Archibald, that if he played MJ 14 minutes and 1 second, he'd fire him on the spot. So MJ destroys in the 14 minutes. It gives the Bulls a chance to be in the game, but with 39 seconds left, his time runs out, and the Bulls are down by one in a game they have to win to make the playoffs. And so MJ's telling the story about how he sit on the side. He's like, forget this, man. Put me in, put me in. And the coach is like, hey, if I put you in, I lose my job, so you're not going in. Luckily, Jim Paxton hits a fadeaway shot to win the game, and the Bulls make the playoffs with a 30-52 record. But the real story comes in that playoff series when they're facing the Boston Celtics. In game one, MJ drops 48 points, and they lose by 20. So he goes and golfs with Danny Ainge of the Celtics the next day. Shows that they just didn't care back then. And Danny Ainge talking all this smack. As they go to drop Danny Ainge off at his house, he said, hey, I'm about to destroy you guys tomorrow. And MJ has what might be the greatest playoff performance I've ever seen in my life, with a 63-point game against the Boston Celtics, and they still lose by 2 when Robert Parrish hits the game winner. And I mean, for crying out loud, in this playoff series, he averaged 43.7 points, 6.3 rebounds, 5.7 assists, 2.3 steals, 1.3 blocks, shooting 50.5% against the best team in the league at the time, the Boston Celtics. Larry Bird straight up said that that was not Michael Jordan. It was God disguised as Michael Jordan in that playoff series. You have Magic say that him and Bird were the main guys at 84, but they both knew that MJ was way better than them. And I think this shows that the debate between LeBron and MJ, you could have it, but I think it's more what era you're from. I mean, if you're from today's era, like me, yeah, I didn't see MJ play. I saw Kobe and I see LeBron play. That's why I have Kobe in my top five. That's why I have LeBron as maybe my number one. This documentary's really pushed me on who I think is the best player of all time. Because I've seen these teams that now MJ's played with. And yes, the Bulls were a super team. But LeBron's also played with some super teams with Wade and Bosh and Kyrie and Caleb. He's never won by himself. He's been close, but he's never won by himself. But you, watching MJ do what he was doing with these teams, it, he didn't win by himself either because he had Pippen and he had Rodman. But he was just putting up the stats, and the way he played was just so efficient. I mean, you ask anyone else from the 70s, they're probably going to say Kareem because Kareem had 6 MVPs, he had 6 championships, which is the same as MJ. So you really have to decide. Like, I think there will never be a definitive answer on who's the best player of all time. It depends on what era you're from. If you're in your 20s to 30s, you're probably saying MJ right now. If you're from age 5 to 20, you're probably saying LeBron. If you're from 40 to 60, you're probably saying Kareem. It just depends on where you're from in your era. I mean, we saw the poll that ESPN did, which named the best college basketball player ever, and fans voted MJ. But MJ wasn't the best college basketball player ever. It was Kareem. But no one saw Kareem play in college. So they did write it off. I would have put Larry Bird over Michael Jordan in college because Michael was good in college, as we talked about today, but he wasn't anything like Kareem was, or Bill Walton was, or Larry Bird was. It's a different case scenario in that situation. I think it all goes down to what area you're from again. But yeah, this documentary was really, really good. The first 2 episodes got me really entertained. It's giving us something in sports to watch, and I'm so entertained. But we'll move on from that for now because that's the recap of the first 2 episodes. But I want to talk about a little bit of other stuff real quickly. As we had this week, just doing some recaps over the week. Mike Conley did win the horse competition over Zach LaVine. He did have the advantage of being in his indoor court while everyone else was outside. So if you want to throw that out, but he did hit some trick shots in the finals, including a behind the back shot. So congrats to Mike Conley for winning the horse competition. Recap: we do have Oklahoma State as the number 4 recruiting class behind Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, and Tennessee as 5. As they did miss out on JT Thor this week, but they got Donovan Williams and Moncrief from Canada. This is probably the best Oklahoma State draft recruiting class since '05 when they had Gerald Green as their number 1 recruit. Even though Gerald Green just switched straight out of high school, he did commit to OSU. And they had 10 players that year. This is only 5 or 6 right now. But I mean, they're number 4 in the nation. I think OSU is a real sleeper pick for next year if you want to throw them in the Big 12. But Boynton, as his second year at OSU this year, did not make the tournament again. With this team next year, if Cade Cunningham actually does show up, it doesn't drop out and go to the G League path that's opened up, OSU better make the tournament, or his job's going to be in doubt. You have Majay Gibson and Harkless, who transferred over to OU from North Texas and Cal Berkeley. I think that was Cal Berkeley. To Cal State, what was it? Cal State Bakersfield. One of the schools of California, but Harkless transferred from. Um, Ubajay Gibson, though, was a really, really good player last year, as we talked about him earlier in the week. He'll be a great replacement for Jamal Pianobly. Uh, go over some more of the draft real quick, as we talked about with. I have CeeDee Lamb in the first round is. I don't see why you wouldn't have CeeDee Lamb as the number one receiver unless you're going with Judy. I could see why you say Judy. I just think CeeDee Lamb's a better receiver. Pull my stats here real quickly. Yeah, CeeDee Lamb's competition. He does a lot of work in the weight room. Best player at OU last year, voted by his players, even though Jalen Hurts was at the Heisman ceremony. And, I mean, there's 27 projected wide receivers to go in the first round, or first 3 rounds, according to multiple reports that I've looked at, which is just crazy to think about. But um, if you don't believe me on the CeeDee Lamb, go watch his gauntlet drill from the combine, and you'll see why he is the number one receiver in this draft class. I don't think he will go any lower than 15. I would be shocked if he's not surprised took it at the top 10. They're comparing him to DeAndre Hopkins, who just got traded, but is one of the best receivers in the league. He's a great blocker, and he had the most catches are over 20 yards last year. Yes, he played the Big 12, which is some weak defenses, but Patrick Mahomes also played the Big 12. Look where he's at now. Tyreek Hill played in the Big 12. Look at where he's at right now. You could be good playing in the Big 12. Don't listen to what all the people are saying. Go over Gallimore because I said I'd talk about him a little bit. Gallimore is a very good defensive player. Defensive tackle. He's just not very consistent. He had a great combine, a great pro day, and a great senior season, but his freshman to junior year were not great. He just wasn't having the production. I mean, the combine he ran a 4.79, which is great for a defensive tackle. He just needs more productivity, and that's why he's going from late first to early third round is because no one just knows if that productivity is going to be there in the NFL. I think it all depends on what the scouts say about him. If the scouts are talking about his first couple of years, he's probably going to go late. If a scout looks at his combine and his pro day and his senior year, maybe somebody takes a chance on him in the first round. I would love for him to go late first, early second. But as you saw with my pick, I have him going to the Beagles at 65 at the first pick of the third round. I just think that's where he's going to fall. Uh, Talk about Kenneth Murray again. No linebacker has gone to the first round for OU since 1984. The Ravens and the Eagles look like they're both really interested in him. We'll see who takes him. I have him going to the Eagles. That's 21, but he could also go 20, is what I've seen. High as 20. He had a great game against Texas. Just look at the tape against Texas where they had 9 sacks as a defense, but Kenneth Murray was in the backfield every single one of those plays. He also played great in the Big 12 championship game. Another player with a great combine. He'll be the first defender to go in the first round for OU since 2010 when Gerald McCoy went the first round. I think that's destined that he goes in the first round now. So it'd be very cool to see what Kenneth Murray goes this weekend. We'll talk about Jalen Hurts again. As I said, I've got him going 50 to the Bears, but I've had some people say he won't get past the second round. I've had some people say that he's a third round. I don't think that he would be a first rounder in any case scenario. I just don't see that available with him. I think if he was not a senior, he was a junior, and he was able to come back next year, I think no doubt about it, he'd be a first round pick next year. I mean, but I think people are going to look at his season last year where he had some bad games. I mean, just look at the Baylor game on the road, the first half where he played absolutely atrocious. But in the second half, led the comeback, 28-3, as the stories tell us, just puts him on the map. And he did it against K-State where he had a bad first half. Second half comes out, just makes the huge comeback. I mean, he came in January, learned the offense really fast, was the starter in September. He knows football. He played under Nick Saban and Lincoln Riley, probably the two best college football coaches out there right now, other than maybe Dabo Sweeney. It's crazy to think that where he could end up. We'll see what happens with Jalen Hurts. As I've said, I've got him going in the second round, which is where most people have him going. But he could follow the third. Two guys that I haven't talked about at all for OU. Parnell Motley, the corner. Really good corner. Uh, didn't have a great freshman to junior year, but his senior season this year was amazing as he stepped up as the number one corner finally for OU. Looked the part, played the part. He did not get a combine invite, and he was mad about that. He'll be one of those maybe late sixth, seventh round picks, or maybe undrafted, along with AJ Green from OSU, who did go to the combine but had a really bad combine. He did try to make up for it a little bit at the pro day, but it wasn't much. But as if you're looking at them in that eyes, you do have Trey Flowers, who was at OSU a couple of years ago, where he went undrafted, and now he started week one that season for Seattle. It's because he won a training camp, so it can happen. I'm really excited for the draft this week. I really enjoyed The Last Dance. If you guys watched it, please leave a like, leave a comment talking about The Last Dance. If you have somebody in the NFL draft you're really excited to see, talk about that. Who your team's gonna take. Uh, Go over Christian Doolittle real quick again. I'm really excited for Christian Doolittle to maybe do something in the NBA draft this year, but I don't think he will because of the sad circumstances of him not going in the Big 12 championship or the NCAA tournament. It really hurt a player like him, 15th ranked senior, wants to play a small forward or a small ball power forward. It'd be first team All Big 12 this year, but he's one of those players that needs the combine, and I hope that they do allow the combine to come back because somebody like him could go late second round. And I really like to see Doolittle in the league. Maybe play for a G League team. As we said, he gets to the same high school as Daquan Jeffries, who played for the Stockton Kings last year, but also played 6 games for the actual Kings, who didn't get drafted. And he also went same high school as Josh Richardson, which is Edmond Memorial. But we'll see what happens there. Christian Doolittle. That's everything for today. I'll be back tomorrow with another recap on the sports, as we are only 5 days away from the draft now. So leave a like, subscribe. I'll see you all tomorrow. Peace.